Hello YouTube, and I welcome you to my first official Let's Beat video. Today we're going to start with one of the greatest video games by reviewing the boss fight of Wander vs. Valis, Behemoth of the Cliff. Enjoy! Valis, being the first Colossus, had to hold a heavy burden of the game by setting the tone for the rest of the game, being the one who makes the first impression. And Valis could almost be the example to the video game world for having done such a great job at it. First, Valis sets up the mechanic of the game in stone by using the ledge climbing effectively, requiring the player to get to the first sigil on the back of his leg, which makes it easy enough to get to unless the player quickly learns which button and movement controls makes it the easiest way to climb. Valis having only 2 sigils and a rigid pattern of responses to the sigil stabbing, along with the well-implemented tutorial of the few mechanics in the game, lends itself incredibly well to the layman on his first playthrough. Next, Valis' character design shows off what Shadow of the Colossus is all about. Ponderous, hulking beasts that have been sleeping in the ground for the past century or so, and they're covered with grass and dirt, and possibly trees, along with Valis causing small tremors whenever he walks around, again lending itself to the atmosphere of fighting an actually big monster. Sure, he's slow and barely attacks, but that's kinda needed on the first boss fight in order to allow the player to find out what to do in order to kill a Colossus. But the most important thing that Valis sets up for the game as a whole is the situation. When you first climb up the mountainside to where Valus is, which personally I found incredibly annoying, because certain jumps were really stingy on what constituted what the hell the game wanted me to do in order to get some progress, which led to the inevitable fails, manifesting as deadly falls that robbed 3 minutes of my life at the worst of times. And was quickly grating on my patience, but it wasn't the kind of infuriating that made me stop, because this was the first trial of the game, and I wasn't going to let the game get the upper hand so quickly. So I gritted my teeth, nearly strangled my controller, and tried again, which eventually led to Wander getting his adventurous butt onto the top of the cliff. Now at this point, the player only has the motivation to kill this Colossus because a voice in the sky told him to in order to save his wife from her death state. And when that is literally all there is, the player starts to gather suspicions of, is this the right thing to do, along with the doubts of trusting this voice in the sky somehow being able to grant what he really wants from life. Your suspicions further being cemented when the black ribbons begin running through Wander's body at the end of the kill. If Dirge were the first boss, being a deliberate monster trying to kill Wander just for trespassing, then the message of Shadow of the Colossus would have been undermined significantly. But at the end of the day, Valus earns his spot in game by filling his role to the letter, being a great introduction to how Colossi fight mechanics would work, starting the story off on the right foot, and being an overall good boss fight. And while Valus's fight is predictable to the point of it being written in stone, having only a couple of sigils in easily reached areas, and little damage capacity apart from an easily dodged punch attack that winds up for about 13 seconds, and is only usable if you are in front of him, and the stomping attacks that can be dodged by knowing that you shouldn't stand under feet. Valus isn't threatening past the first playthrough, and at that point is insultingly easy. But, overall, Valus earns his spot and this score. Gameplay. Combining an excellent tutorial with an easily climbed difficulty curve, Valus sets out the mechanics of the game to be easily grasped, while allowing it to be later perfected. 8 2/3 Triforces. Story. Setting up the tone of motivation and preluding the end message of the game, Valus again fills his role perfectly. 10 Triforces. Fun. While this Colossus might be one of the most simplified Colossi, posing a threat only on the first playthrough, that fact is countered by players initially not knowing how to play the game at that point, so side by side, this Colossus still poses a challenge through the unknown elements, and defeating him is satisfying before being attacked by the black ribbons. 9 2/3 Triforces. Finally, Valus, Behemoth of the Cliff, gets a well-deserved final score of 28 1/3 out of 30. Being one of the most effective first boss fights, and being the literal example of how to design one for future developers, Valus is remembered as one of the best. And always I leave you with this. Victory for the gamers!